Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, all these billionaires shared a common habit. They all reserved few minutes a day to do something that made them a better version of themselves. Before I tell you what it is, let me ask you this. How many times have you been overwhelmed or stuck when starting something new? How often have you thought, I wish I had someone to ask for advice? When I started creating content for my YouTube channel, I knew literally nothing. I didn't know how to set up a camera or write a script, and I had no one to help. But unless we are Neil Armstrong going to take his first step on the moon, we are not alone. Many others have walked the same path from whom we can get valuable knowledge and insights. If you want to be a great leader, you must learn from other great leaders. To be rich, you should learn from those who have made millions. But then there is a problem. Most of us don't have easy direct access to millionaires or great leaders. But lucky for us, there is a simple way around it. Books. Books are not just a collection of words. They contain the life experiences of the person who wrote them, the lessons they learned, and the mistakes they made. They provide so much value at a fraction of the cost, and they have changed my life. I learned a lot about personal finance and content creation from books, and I believe reading is a habit we should prioritize and make a part of our day-to-day life, like brushing or exercising. But I don't think I have to tell you about the benefits of reading. You probably already know them. So this video is not about that. Most of you may already have a reading list, and some of you may have already started with one book but just got stuck on it. And if I ask you why, I already know the reason what you're going to say. But I don't buy it. Sorry, the same reason doesn't come into play when watching Netflix or scrolling on Instagram. So why is it an exception when it comes to reading? Yes, I'm talking about the most common problem, not having enough time. And I don't buy it because I believe everyone can find 50 minutes a day no matter what. It's about the priorities. It's always about the priorities. But let's not go there. I don't know you. I don't know how busy you are with life, and I don't know what you're going through. Maybe you only have a limited free time in your day. But there are two other main reasons why people fail to make reading a habit. And before we go to those reasons, we have to talk about a well-known author, Jane Austen. She is great. And if you search online for the best books to read, her books will make the list. But her works are a mix of social satire, comedy, and romance from a woman's perspective of 19th century British country life. Maybe that's something that interests you. But if you start reading them only based on recommendations, then you will soon get back to Netflix or social media on your reading time. The thought of reading a book should excite us. Only then we will find time to read it. I read for a fixed amount of time every day. And when I stop reading, I can't wait to get back to where I left off. This is because I read what interests me, and that keeps me wanting to read more. So before you pick up a book to read, ask yourself these questions. Why am I reading it? Is it because everyone says it's a great book, or because I find the topic interesting? What's the main idea that is present in this book? But then, how can we know that before even reading it? There is a way. For Kindle books, you can read short samples before you actually decide to buy the book. You can also use services such as Shortform or Blinkist, where you can read key insights from major books in the form of short summaries. Bill Gates reads 50 books annually, and I don't think 50 Shades of Grey is part of his list. We have to find those books that strike a chord with us. If not, we might be stuck with the same book forever. But still, that's not the main reason why we don't read as much as we want. Tell me if this sounds familiar. A friend recommends a book to you. You get it from the local bookstore or buy it on Kindle, and you are all excited to start reading it. Now, when you are halfway through it, you feel bored and cannot connect to the content anymore. What will you do? Will you stop reading it and then move to the next book in the list? Or will you somehow try to finish it? For me, I couldn't start with a new book unless I am finished with the current one. Because the book has feelings, and I haven't done an official breakup yet. I have sat on books for a whole year because I didn't have the courage to quit. And this is called sunk cost fallacy, and it's a tendency for people to continue doing something even when leaving it would be more beneficial. It's the same thing that makes us watch crappy movies until the end, even when we find out by the halfway point that it's not what we expected. But then I came across this advice from Ali Abdal, a YouTuber who makes videos about productivity, and that changed my reading habits.
They're not sacred, they're not hallowed, there's nothing special about a book just because it happens to be in book format. I will treat it like a blog post, i.e. I will feel completely okay with stopping reading the book, even if I'm halfway through or 10% of the way through.
Good reading habits are not just about what you read. It's also about what you don't read. Now, if a book doesn't grab my attention, I just stop reading it. My time on this planet is limited. and I don't want to spend it on things that don't interest me. To read more, read books that interest you and stop reading the ones that you cannot connect with. But then, that alone won't help you to make reading a lifelong habit. You need to do something else. Author James Clear writes about how to build long-lasting habits in his bestseller book, Atomic Habits. Many people think they lack motivation, when what they really lack is clarity. It is not always obvious when and where to take action. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Standardize before you optimize. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. To build better habits, find ways to reduce the friction associated with our good habits and increase the friction associated with our bad ones. We can apply these lessons to create 3 action points. Consider defining a designated place and time to read. I suggest reserving a time slot at night before bed so you can read and wind down. Start small. It's okay even if you read only 1 page or just for 5 minutes. More important is to make this routine part of your life. Keep your book or Kindle near the reading place, your reading chair or your night table, so you can pick it up and start reading immediately. But then, 11,000 books are published every day. Once you make it a habit, your reading list will grow and you will want to read more. Those who read often know this. You finish with 1 book and then 10 more get added to the list. We don't know which book can make that huge positive impact on our life or give us that next $1 million idea. So we have to read as much as we can. Theodore Roosevelt read 1 book before breakfast and then 3 or 4 more in the evening. An average person reads 200 to 300 words per minute. That's like 1 page every minute. And one way to read more books is to just increase your reading speed. But then, isn't reading supposed to be that relaxing, soothing thing where you are in the park with that cold breeze and slowly moving from page to page? Yeah, in some cases and some books, yes. But that's not why most of us read. Most books these days, and I'm here talking specifically about non-fiction books, revolve around a core point that will be covered in just a few chapters. The rest of the book is basically expanding on the central ideas with examples and such. So once you understand the core concept in the book, there is not enough benefit spending so much time on the book. So by reading the remaining sections faster, we can still get most out of the book without discarding the book as a whole. Don't get me wrong. I know that it's not just about reading faster. The purpose of reading is not to increase our book count. If we read to tell other people how many books we have read, then we will have nothing more than empty status. The idea here is to read more books so that we can learn more and apply that knowledge to make our life better. And this is not a talent that one is born with, but can be learned if you understand the 2 major factors that slows our reading. Before we check them, let me shortly explain how we read. Our eyes grab the words one at a time, and our mind combines them into sentences and processes them. Let me tell you, this is not the fastest way to read. We don't have to read each and every word to understand the content, because words actually convey very little meaning individually, though the words around a word give it meaning. If you notice the eyes of someone reading, you will see that they don't follow an even linear motion from beginning of the line to the end. Instead, the eyes move like steps in a cogwheel, stopping to focus in between in so-called fixation points. Let me show you an example. Read the following line. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. A normal reader reads a sentence slowly in 4 to 6 eye fixations, sometimes taking in only a single word per fixation. So when you read a book, focus on a point halfway between the beginning of the line and the center, and then the second fixation point halfway between the middle and the end of the line. Then use your peripheral vision to read roughly half an inch from those fixation points. Stop reading word by word. Divide the text into chunks and then read block by block. And by practicing this, you will automatically read faster. Now the second and most crucial factor that slows down our reading is something that is programmed in our mind from our childhood days. When we were in school, the teacher would have asked us to read sections from the textbook out loud, right? And due to this, whenever we read, we keep saying the same word in our mind, even if we are not reading it out loud. And this is called sub-vocalization. And this is good when we are learning a new language. But we should have ideally stopped doing it by 5th grade, because this drastically affects our reading speed. Our eyes and our brain can process words much faster than our reading pace. And when we sub-vocalize, we limit our brain's maximum word processing speed to our talking speed. Unfortunately, there is only one way to avoid this. Just be aware of it and consciously try not to do it. Initially, it won't be easy. and our comprehension will suffer lightly. But like anything else, with practice, this will become secondary. All of this won't matter if we cannot apply what we read. We can read 1,000 books about swimming, but if we don't step into the water, we will never learn swimming. If we don't use the insights we have read to improve our life, then it's just a waste of time. Reading is a very personal activity, and always keep in mind that we are not doing this for anyone else, but for ourselves. I write a summary of every book I read and action points I can take before I jump into the next book on the list. If you want to learn more about building wealth, but don't have the time to read all the personal finance books, then you can go to the link in the description below. There, you can find a summary with defined action points for around 100 best personal finance books. These books have all the knowledge and wisdom you need to save, invest, and build wealth. So do check it out. Finally, these are all just guidelines, and it's up to you what kind of books you want to read, or whether you prefer reading at 200 words per minute or 1000 words per minute. Just keep reading. Adios.